Consider this park tagged.
Oh man. Did you hear they're closing this place down?
Ridiculous.
I know it now.
It'll never happen. We are just too gangster.
Ready to do this.
Always.
All right. Hello and welcome to Talking
Hello! How are you today?
Today is
Live
March
studio
3rd,
audience.
2019. It is season 3, episode 9. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Jamie Boone.
And we were so excited that you all are here with us today. So, before we dive into calls, I did want to throw out a little bit of information.
Information.
The first is that we've got International Atheist Day coming up. Did
Yes,
you know that?
we
March
do.
23rd?
I did, but only because I'm helping to organize it.
And also, we through some production magic, threw together a little video. Let's see if we can pop it up. Around the world, secular groups are gathering this March to celebrate the first International Atheist Day. While we encourage atheist groups to come together and celebrate, we invite you to join us. Because lacking religion does not constitute hate. Because in many parts of the world, disbelief can have tragic consequences. Because it's time.
I know him. I know him too.
International community.
Oh, I like him.
Yeah. Well, like
he's
all them.
Angry.
We should. Who's that asshole?
I don't know.
Stand up this March 23rd. I bet he knows people
Mm.
there. As we demand to be counted.
Ugh. Always the center of attention.
Nice hair, though.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. You want to go?
Yeah, I think so.
Damn,
so I am really excited about this event, in part because in my mind, the focus is a little bit different than other events that the ACA has thrown. So we do community events. We had one on Valentine's Day. We do one in September. There's a large bat population in Austin, and we go and we do a little cruise and we look at it. We often go to AACon, which we will again this year, and that is a sort of revel in the community that we have. But there's
That's
a
actually
second
the next announcement.
Yeah,
We'll hold off to that.
Well, I've jumped the atheist gun.
That's all right.
But this one is a little bit different because it's an attempt to start something that will happen annually, and in my mind, there's an extra added level of international solidarity because, as the ad said, there are places where it is illegal to not believe anything, and the punishment is death, and that shouldn't be a thing. And so while in the United States, we enjoy, the human rights of not being murdered officially by our government for not believing yet, that's not true everywhere in the world, and we think it should be, and we think that people shouldn't be alone. So there are times when people have come here from countries where it's illegal and talked to us and have been like, oh, can you send a message back home? And we haven't been able to say exactly who we're talking to on the air because that would be public and it would be detrimental to their health.
Yep.
And this is a way for us, for atheists everywhere, to stand up and say, you know what? There are struggles around the world. You are not alone. And while times are hard, they won't last forever. And so green circles everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have a local group, please consider doing something.
Yeah.
And if you can make it out to Austin, unlike our other events, this one's
completely
free.
Open. Yeah,
this one's free, and the more people that come out, the better.
The better. Big crowds.
Please, we really want to see everybody come out. We really want to have a good time. We're going to have some amazing guests.
And even get together with your local group, take an ussie or a selfie with a group of people. Yeah, I know he's cringing. I don't even have to look. Take a group picture, say your group, say where you're from, and we'll, post it on our Facebook or, advertise. Because, sure, in the United States, you're not going to get killed for being an atheist, but people need to know that they're not alone, right? There was someone that came here and went, oh, I'm the only atheist in Waco, because he didn't know that Dan lived there.
I remember that,
and the other ones. And it's sort of like, no, you're not.
You just
we know.
Dan.
Oh, shit.
Nice.
I mean,
way to go, Jamie.
He's only there temporarily. He's moving in like a couple weeks.
And you just doxed his move.
Well, so he's not, surprise, a city where he won't be living. But the point is that people should know that they're not alone. And even if there's not a group, there can be. And even if they don't get one together, there's communities online and people can
Absolutely.
visit. We have a couple people that visit here all the time.
And we're throwing together a website for the event.
Yes,
and
website specifically for
there's
this
not a whole
one.
lot of time to ask for days off. So if you still can, do request that day off. Get off on March 23rd, so you can get your butt up to Austin. Come and meet us.
Yeah.
We're going to be shaking hands and spending time with everybody who comes down. So come and say hi to us. Come and hang out.
Yeah, speeches and speakers.
Absolutely.
Capital of Texas.
All right. So with that done,
Yes.
the other announcement is
There's another royal wedding. No, what is the other announcement?
we're going to the American Atheist Convention 2019
Yes,
in
we
Cincinnati.
are.
We're doing our second live
year
show.
running.
I'm so freaking excited. So
Yeah, it's
Talk
gonna be
Heathen,
great.
us, and that other show, The Atheist
The
Experience.
Atheist Experience.
They're
whoever
going to be
those
going.
guys are.
We're going to be up on the main stage on Saturday
Yeah.
at 1 in the afternoon.
And we're not, so I know I've talked to you about last year we brought 2 guests on, and I can't confirm mine yet because I haven't heard back from them.
I'm still waiting on.
So
I'm still
there will
confirming
be
mine.
2 people. It'll be excellent. It'll be awesome.
And we're going to be taking
I will
audience
have-
questions, and we're going to be excited to meet you there too. If
Yeah.
you're going to be coming up to Cincinnati, you're going to see us. So
Yes,
we're stoked.
and you will see me wear a tremendous amount of plaid. So,
Oh gosh!
Yep,
if you wear
is
that
coming
garish hat
back.
again, I'm
Okay,
done.
anyway, so hold on.
If
I'm
you
sorry.
want to know
No,
more,
this is an
go
emergency.
to aacon2019.org.
Yes.
aacon2019.org. They're still updating the information. We will be up as soon as I get our pictures to them
Yeah.
so that they can put those pictures up.
And
yeah.
you should also go to the convention, not just the website. This is a kind of emergency, though, because I mentioned
gosh.
plaid, and then you went that garish hat. Do you know that the pattern on that hat is not plaid?
Yes.
It's rainbow.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, just I
You know
feel
that
like
you can have rainbow
yeah,
those
I feel
are
like
not mutually
I am
exclusive
your
things.
queer friend, and I don't mean to fulfill stereotypes, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that he was this far gone and lost and helpless. I mean,
I feel uncomfortable.
You're able to wear this,
All
and I'm
right.
like, oh, he's
That's
fine.
enough of that.
Okay, and
Are we ready?
And into calls.
Yeah,
Gray in Alabama.
You're live with Eric and Jamie.
Hi.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, we're doing good. How about
Please
yourself?
don't be intimidated by us saying that at the same time. We did not plan that.
We
yeah.
were in sync. I like it.
The better of the boy bands.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a little bit nervous because I thoroughly enjoy watching your guys' show.
Thank you.
And-
Yeah. Like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already have.
Yeah. Yeah.
all good,
You're my
man.
favorite.
What do you want to talk about?
So I have a friend down here, and he's pretty religious. And I just kind of wanted to ask if it was like a good or bad idea to go into that conversation. Of course, I'm going to add some more details, but
yeah.
that was kind of the main question, was if I should go into this and if
Okay.
I should be talking to him about all these.
Well, the answer to this is easy, which is it depends. So it sort of depends on your relationship with your friend. And you may, if you engage in this conversation, reach a point where your friend is uncomfortable either immediately or later down the line in the conversation, or you might find that you're uncomfortable. And presumably you really value this friendship. You're contemplating whether or not even to bring this up quite a lot, which is good. It's kind. It's caring. You should care about other people. Kudos. But if you feel like you and your friend are close enough, or your friendship is strong enough that you can start this conversation and, if necessary, stop or deviate or crack a joke in the middle of it, then that is sort of the key to being able to tell whether or not that conversation is going to get out of hand. Because it can be very surprising where that kind of conversation goes. You might be surprised by him agreeing with 99% of what you say, or you might be surprised by him saying he believes things that you didn't even realize. And in either case, if you have if there's an easy exit strategy that you're confident in, then I would say go in easy. That is, if they want to have the conversation, and in general, you'll be fine. I mean, I'm happy to talk to you with more details. That is the only general advice that I can give.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many different approaches. Number
Yeah.
one, you could make it about yourself and say, "Hey, I'm really excited about this stuff. What do you think?" You know, and make
That's
it
true.
something that is not a confrontive, but an opportunity for them to ask questions.
Yeah.
You can say, "Hey, you know, I've really kind of been going down this, this line of reasoning, and I know that you are religious. I wanted to get your opinion." Or you can say, you know, "Hey, I wanted to talk to." I mean, it's completely up to you. There aren't any wrong answers. Just don't be a dick. As long as you can remember not to be an asshole, I think you should be just fine. Just remember that people are more important, and ideas don't deserve respect. And so not everybody understands that, but if you can help walk them through, even if you don't break through with the religious thing, you might have given them a great tool for moving forward in life.
Yeah, because I don't want to try to outright convert him, although that would be good if I could. But I want him to at least start questioning it more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say
rather than just accepting.
Yeah, I would say that's the other thing, is to consider what the point is, right? So for example, just you know, what are you hoping to get out of the conversation, whether that's likely, and you know, guard yourself against disappointment. It might not work out well. Or your friend might say, "Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. Let's just be friends." In which case, what can you do?
Yeah, that's up to you. But I mean, hope that helps. And
I mean, I feel like we did 90% of the talking there, but we're sort of very familiar with that as a situation. And I think, I mean, hopefully that you don't feel like we railroaded you. But does that sort of help as advice?
Yeah, because I just kind of needed to know where to begin, and that definitely helped me kind of figure out where I need to begin on that.
Rock on. Well, good luck to you, man.
And as a quick side note, you're in Alabama, so religious but open-minded is a position that we know atheists there. At least I remember them. I don't know how well you know them, and that's kind of the way they present themselves, because they have to fit in and not be ostracized from their very small community. So you may be very surprised about sitting down with them and saying, "Yeah, no, I don't believe. What do you think?" They may go, "Yeah, no, I'm there with you." So it could be anything.
Yep. All right, man. Well, good luck to you, brother.
All right.
And hope everything works out.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. These are really helpful calls.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, I think that was good.
Yeah, let's jump right into Andre from South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Andre, you're live with Eric and Jamie.
Hey, guys.
How are you doing?
Hey.
I'm good, and you?
We're
I'm
doing pretty well.
marvelously.
Yeah, it's a good one. The caffeine is starting to kick in. I'm starting to rear up. Let's do this.
I was going to say, you were low energy a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, extra information. And now you're like, "Yeah, woo, I'm Eric." So it's all good, except with more composure than that impression. So what did you want to talk about, Andre?
Oh, that's good. I like seeing Eric happy and upbeat.
Aww.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, much love, brother.
I love you too, man.
Yeah, I was just calling because I came out to my parents a few months ago, in December, and most of my family has basically accepted it, and they disagree with me and whatnot, but that's fine. But when I somehow in some way disagree with my dad, it doesn't always go very well. And tonight there was such a disagreement happened where it wasn't even religious, but it was just, you're disagreeing with me on this subject. You must be a filthy liberal, something like that. And and alcohol was involved. I just need to say that. So
it often is. I've actually had more productive conversations with my family when we've all had a drink. It sort of depends on the person, I suppose.
I'm a very lovey drunk.
Yeah,
but
well, no, I mean, better than me.
I'm pretty sure everybody. Family. Yeah, Andre, that sucks, man. And the thing is, a lot of these conversations, that people call in with when we disagree, we have the luxury of not ever having to talk to them again. And because of that,
is true.
we don't necessarily need to, be as restrained. And when you have family who's difficult like that, it can be tough because sometimes you can feel like you're the only person who's being considerate in the room. And I'm sorry that you've got to deal with that. But I absolutely have had conversations like that with people I love. And to date, I don't know of any way to change somebody's mind who doesn't want to be changed, but just to move forward with empathy and compassion, because it's hard for someone to be mad at somebody else who is acting in a caring, loving, compassionate way.
Yes.
Be exactly the good person that you are. And you can start to show, especially if you're being identified as the filthy, liberal, godless heathen, then why don't you, go do some good? Because it's going to throw them for a loop. And no matter what, whether it changes...
He knows exactly what kind of a good person I am. Sorry for interrupting. He knows I'm a good person, and he knows I do a lot of good, and I've done a lot of good things that he will definitely acknowledge as something that he would consider to be very good. It's just that, the disagreements like tonight, it escalated to the point where he threatened to break my nose and throw me out of the house.
So do you
it's only when alcohol is involved.
Then.
So have you had conversations with him where alcohol is not involved about this?
Yes, and it's usually a lot easier, but he's still very stubborn, and he holds his positions with very hard-headedly.
Yeah, that's...
Well, you're definitely entitled to be able to say, hey, I don't want to have this conversation when you're under the influence.
You're also entitled to say, hey, if this is going to cause a rift between me and my father to the point where potentially violence and shattering, or splitting a family is going to occur, then I think that, I can't make the decisions for you, but I think that at that point there's a question of what your goal is, because I don't want to split from my family, and I don't want my family to split from me, and that's one of the things I consider when I'm thinking about what kind of conversations to have with them, right? There are very explicit details of my life that I don't bring up in conversation, right? Like, they don't need to know how many times I go to the bathroom, and it would be weird if I brought that up all the time. And depending on how insistent I was about it, it might cause a rift in the family, and so I don't. And so for me, what I do volunteering here and atheism, it's not in the same category because there's value to talking about it, but I feel okay not bringing it up and not having those conversations all the time because, there are other conversations that we don't have. And I think if you think about it in that context, it becomes more palatable to either have or not have those conversations.
And the other side of it that I would like to address is if you are experiencing that, that is called, it is a kind of abuse.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of abuse that, it is an abuse that there are some amazing support groups for. Then I'd highly suggest you take a look at them, because there are techniques and tactics for being able to communicate in an effective way in those kinds of situations.
Yes, I was thinking of street epistemology as one way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm specifically talking about.
And what actually on that point, really,
family members of people who are abusive, and people in relationships with people who are abusive.
Yeah.
You said this is not just about the atheist conversation, and what I would say to you, Andre, is you're worth more than that. You don't deserve it.
Yes, I understand. My dad really loves me, and he's really proud of me and what I've become. Not the atheist part and the liberal part, but it's just now this is the caveat. He's not an abusive person. It's just
Andre.
I think something inside him snapped. I don't know.
Andre, those can all be true things.
Yeah.
And this person can have done something abusive.
Yeah. I'd like to say that I don't think that Eric is saying your father is in general an abusive person.
Yes.
I think he's saying
no,
that.
I'm not taking it like that.
No,
Yes,
okay,
no.
okay.
And I'm obviously a little defensive, but I'm
Of
also...
course, you love them
do
and you care.
You love your family
Yeah,
as
but
they
I do recognize that you're just talking about the abusive that's
Action.
happened now.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
So what I will say is there's an app, the Atheist app, that sort of is a kind of training and practice for street epistemology. It's really great. And one of the ones on the sort of first level of the cave is, what should you do if this is the response, right? And one of those is the hypothetical thing you've been told is, shut up or I'm going to punch you in the nose. And the response that the app advises is not to continue the conversation and potentially to remove yourself from the situation, because being punched in the face for a conversation that doesn't need to happen is not a choice I could ever really see myself, or not advice I could ever see myself giving. I think so.
But hopefully that kind of gives a little bit of help. It's shitty, man. Big hug from Austin. We're thinking about you.
All right, man. Thanks, guys. And I really appreciate the advice and the little talk.
We appreciate you. And
thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I did have something else, but I don't think it's relevant. It's just that my girlfriend's also a creationist. But if you don't want to go into that, if you want to go to other callers, I'm fine with that.
So that is something we would take a good amount of time on.
But what I will say is, before you have children, that is something that can't be unaddressed when you have a kid.
Yes.
However, there's
sort of
20 different ways to go forward from that when it's just you and her, which is not solid advice.
I think she and I has come to an agreeable position regarding children, but my father hasn't. My father wants to be involved in ways that I don't think would be productive.
Yeah. Well, if you have children, you are that child's parent, and ultimately...
Yes, I do realize, yes.
Yeah, that doesn't make it easier. Family is tricky, but yeah. Well, in any case, we appreciate the call, and, it's worth saying, while you're, this call will, hopefully our advice has helped you, and probably listening to this call will help other people.
Yes.
So if it helps you feel a little bit, better about your situation, you are helping.
Yeah. And
yourself and others.
David H. in the live chat said that setting up boundaries with your dad on these topics, if you know where the hot spots are, can really help.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good pick from the live chat.
Mm-hmm.
But you take care, buddy. It was good talking to you.
All right, thanks, guys. See you, or
have
a good night.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. I was also looking in the live chat, and people were, saying that I kind of jumped on the abuse wagon pretty quickly.
Well, to be clear, it's a good wagon to address.
It is, and even if that's not the case, when somebody does, that, it's definitely worth being aware of because...
There's nothing wrong with having the information about abusive actions before the abusive actions occur.
And also to recognize that your worth is so much more. And having been in some abusive relationships, I can say that it's very easy to make a bunch of excuses, having seen those kinds of things. And I'm not saying that this is the case for him. It could very well be that it was just a bad night, and that's fine. But we don't just have conversations with people who are calling. We have conversations to address issues that everybody's watching. And if that helped somebody, to kind of go, oh, wait, maybe I'm making up an excuse. Well, maybe I'm making up an excuse for somebody who is doing something that is generally seen as unexcusable. Maybe that helps, and maybe that's worth it. But I absolutely see that, one bad night does not a relationship of abuse make. So
or abusive relationship make.
Yeah. So I kind of want to move on to someone with a flawless syllogism.
All right.
That sounds cool. Billy in Austin, Texas.
Hey, buddy.
Billy,
come on
you're in our
down.
backyard.
Yeah.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me, Oakland?
Yeah.
Over the phone.
Yeah.
You're not that close.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
sorry. I have a flawless syllogism that I have constructed.
Okay. Well, flawless
right.
is definitely something that tweaks my ears because
I have a prediction, actually.
I have not been able to find any flaws.
Okay, I have a prediction. There's going to be one of the premises that you are confident in concluding is true, and that I will say, actually, I don't find the evidence and reasons behind that one premise sufficient. It's probably what I'm going to.
Are you making this prediction?
It's a prediction. Let's see if I can fulfill prophecy.
Based on prior experience.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah. Who knows?
But sorry. That was
Billy,
probably
what do you got?
That was kind of a jerk move. What do you got for us?
I have thought of every possible way that this syllogism could have flaws, and there are none. All right. Premise one: science cannot investigate the supernatural. Therefore, anything we find that science cannot investigate is supernatural. Do you have a problem with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What is the problem there?
So that particular premise is not in the form. The conclusion of that premise doesn't follow. So the fact that there is a thing, the realm of the supernatural, that science cannot investigate does not mean that everything that science cannot investigate is that.
Well, yeah, actually it does, because you're giving the supernatural a definition by saying that science cannot investigate it.
You're just no. So here's the difference,
We're
Billy.
using different definitions.
Yeah, no. So here's the difference, Billy. When you say supernatural is a thing that science cannot investigate, you are describing an attribute of the supernatural. If you are trying to say that all things that science cannot investigate are supernatural, then that is different. Or are you saying that all things that science cannot investigate should be labeled supernatural?
Can I put this into an actual?
Well, so I feel like there's a distinction that I want to get from him, and then you. So Billy, does that make sense? As far as what my question?
I disagree. Anything that science can't investigate is supernatural.
Okay.
Do you mean is caused by supernatural means?
I mean,
No, I think that's
don't
his
know
definition.
what the cause. Yeah.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is why
Science can't investigate the supernatural.
Okay. So
if we find something that science can't investigate, then it is supernatural.
Okay.
So that
let's-
construction is not sound.
Yeah, let's kind of dig into this a little bit and explore your definition.
Sorry to get caught up on premise
No, it's
one.
okay. So
That's fine. That's fine.
So it appears to me that you're defining supernatural as that which cannot be investigated by science. Is that your definition of the supernatural?
No,
Okay.
that wouldn't be a definition. That would just be one of the defining attributes, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah, then your conclusion doesn't follow.
If that's the let's walk through why.
Okay.
That's
Sorry.
okay. So let's kind of go through this and figure out why there's a problem here, right? If that was the case, then we would be constantly moving things from supernatural into natural because we're always learning more things about the world around us, right? So
we do that.
Before we learned about the germ theory of disease, right? We would have defined it as supernatural all the way up until we learned about this and studied it, and then after that point, it would be considered natural, right?
Well, but science could investigate it, though. They did. It just wasn't investigated yet.
That is a wonderful distinction that I agree with. So let's actually move forward with that distinction, Billy. So what in this world do you think we will never be able to investigate? Because you're making a supposition. Yeah, you're making a supposition that there are things that we will never be able to investigate.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, like what?
Well, that brings me to premise two, which is.
Hold on. I want an example.
Yeah. The example would be premise two, where science cannot investigate dark matter or dark energy.
Okay,
I
how do you know
disagree.
that?
Yeah.
Because it can't be detected. Can you investigate something that you can't detect?
It has
Billy,
been detected.
It has been detected, which is why it has placeholder names.
No. So the effect of dark matter is gravity, right? So that is a detection of dark matter.
And
you can say that the amount to
No.
which scientific investigation can investigate it is limited. I would accept that. However, you can measure gravity. It has been measured. Dark matter has been detected through scientific means.
Well, and that's a misnomer. First off, like I kind of want to jump. Like, Billy, do you understand what dark matter is?
Well,
no. Hold on.
Well, nobody understands what dark matter is.
Then why does it have a name, Billy?
Because it's the name given to the effect that we see whenever we look at other things. When we're investigating galaxies,
Yes.
we notice that they rotate too fast for the amount of visible matter that it has, and so scientists have to put in dark matter or put in another variable to account for that rotation, and that's what they call dark matter.
Exactly, Billy.
Yeah.
So hold on. You're saying
So they're not investigating dark matter. They're not investigating dark
no. They're
matter.
using it as a
galaxy.
Billy. They're using it as a placeholder to describe an effect that they see.
yeah.
Right. So dark matter as a thing, right,
we don't yet
may
know.
not exist, and until we give something else a definition, until we discover or learn about something else. But to say you can never investigate dark matter, that's just silly. Do you think we're never going to go to space? Do you think we're never going to leave this solar system, Billy? And also, that's kind of an aside because
I can't predict the future.
yeah, and because you can't predict it, Billy. For you to make a solid statement of never.
No, as of right now.
No. You're saying never, Billy.
We can't. No. I'm saying we can't investigate it.
Are you saying we can't investigate it right now?
Yes, that's what
Are you saying it cannot be investigated?
I'm saying it cannot be investigated because it cannot be detected. You can't investigate something that you can't detect.
So, two things. One, the last statement you made, you cannot investigate something that you cannot detect. I'm right there with you. However, the scientific process is there is a phenomenon that is observed. There are hypotheses made about it, further observation, investigation. In this case, lots and lots and lots of math that I haven't personally looked at, and is almost certainly beyond me as far as my ability to read those scientific papers. However, that is describing a thing that is being observed. That is a form of investigation. That is the beginning of scientific investigation. Science is investigating an effect. Right now, that effect, there is a hypothesis about dark matter. So
they're investigating a thing that's being affected, though. They're just like whenever you
that's a method of detecting it. So you don't have to detect something directly in order to detect it.
But to investigate it, you have to detect it. You have to be able to detect it. To investigate it directly, you have to be able to detect it. Math that they do. Listen.
I disagree wholeheartedly with that premise as far as understanding what detection is by means of science. So before, so for example, there are people looking at the effects of celestial objects further away from our star than Pluto, and there's a lot of rocks. Yeah, so this is a sort of separate example, right? We know that asteroids, meteors, etc. exist, and there is a working hypothesis that they are still testing that is far away, that there is a large object, larger than Pluto, very large, that is orbiting the sun through. That is orbiting the sun at that rate. And they are investigating and hypothesizing about where that object would be based on observations of its potential effects on asteroids and other celestial objects out there. That is the beginning of the investigation of, I think at one point it was called, it was one of the things that has been called Planet X. That's probably the wrong name. Would you agree that that is an investigation of that planet object thing?
They're not investigating Planet X, so you can't investigate Planet X.
Okay. So based on hold on. Based on the example I just gave, if you are measuring the effect of like, hey, look, we can see for these asteroids, and based on their trajectory of where they were and where we can see them now, they were affected by something with a gravitational pull. Let's look at other evidence about other things that may have been affected by a similar gravitational pull. It's like saying you can't investigate a person walking through the woods if you only find their footprints. Yes, you can. That is a trace on other objects left by that person.
But you would be able to detect. I mean, it's.
So you can't tell me what color the person's eyes are yet. However, that is the beginning of investigating that hiker in the woods.
The beginning of investigating isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually being able to investigate something
directly. So is your statement that
science can't investigate? Science cannot investigate the supernatural.
Okay, Jesus Christ. Hold on. No.
Okay.
Calm down, dude. Calm down. Calm down.
So, no, I feel like your reasoning here led us on a rabbit trail, which is, Billy, hold on. Billy.
Law.
Okay, and if you keep talking about how perfect it is while other people are trying to investigate it,
discuss it, we're probably going to have a problem.
Yeah. So let's.
I've been working on this syllogism for years, dude. It's flawless.
Okay,
Billy?
So go ahead. Sorry.
Billy?
Go ahead.
Then why are you calling a talk show on YouTube? Take it to a university. But the fact is I think I can actually break it down on a talk show on YouTube.
I've done that.
So,
okay.
And what happened, Billy? What happened?
They can't find flaws with it either.
Okay, then let's.
You're
walk
saying
through it.
either as though I haven't already pointed out that there's a difference in the meaning of investigation.
Okay, let's.
I mean, that's always what happens. They always start taking pieces of the syllogism and then starting to read, micro-analyze the definition.
That's what you do, Billy.
Yes, that's the process of testing an idea.
Well,
how have you been working on this for years and not understand that's how that works?
Well, that's been done. That's been done.
Well, then how come you are so fucking defensive about this piece right now?
Chill. Christ, calm down, dude.
Okay, so
okay,
I'm not defensive. It's just there's no flaws, and
I'm okay. So no, hold on, no. So let's look.
Not presenting any flaws.
Okay, then let's Billy.
Okay.
Hi, Billy.
Dude, stop.
Okay,
that. Stop.
If you keep doing that, dude, you can stop all day after I hang up on you. So let's actually dig into the syllogism, right?
I get it.
No, it's how I stop people from being assholes. So just chill.
Well,
okay.
Hey, I'm not being an asshole, dude.
Okay. This is all right. Let me jump in here for just a moment to say, let's just take 1 second, pause, and think about how the goal of this conversation, which the three of us are having, is to examine and test a syllogism that Billy is presenting. And I think if we all breathe in and recognize that we want to have an honest and inquisitive conversation about the premises. Yeah, and
angry.
So
or without having emotion come into it. So one of the things that just happened was when we were discussing it, part of your response was, "Dude, I've been working on this for years and it is flawless." Well, so that statement doesn't really add anything to the conversation. I'd rather talk about the points of the argument, and I think that Eric and you would agree that that's the case.
Sure.
Okay.
For y'all as well.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Billy.
That's a reason.
Very nice, Jamie.
Thank you.
So when you're saying science cannot do this, it seems like we're waffling between can't do it right now or could never do it. And you're using an example of one thing, but I can give you hundreds of examples. Hold on a sec. I can give you hundreds of examples that absolutely fit right through, right? I mean, every advent of technology we've ever had came from us learning new things about the world around us, correct?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I guess so.
And so if
I couldn't go through all of them immediately, but
we're
sounds reasonable.
Yeah, we're not
that's
computers.
them being investigated.
So, we have investigated many things. We learn about the world all of the time. And so,
we do.
Yeah, the piece that I'm having an issue with is your statement was very broad, right? And you had said that part of what makes up the supernatural is in that definition. You were saying that it is that which cannot be investigated by science. And so I'm trying to dig into what you're saying when you're saying cannot be investigated by science, right? Because if you're saying it can never be investigated, then I would say, how could you possibly know what tools we can develop in 5,000 years?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that.
So are you saying at the present moment science cannot investigate this?
I can only say that's all I can say. It's at the present moment science can't investigate the supernatural. That's a quote. That's a quote I got from Matt Dillahunt. He says that all the time.
Agreed. Yeah, and I agree with that by definition.
So let's see.
So if we find something, if we find something that science can't investigate, and science can't investigate the supernatural, then it I pretty much follows it.
It does not.
No.
So I've pointed out the problems with the first premise that I have. I don't think that you've taken them on board, and I'm not sure that circling back to them will be particularly fruitful in this conversation. However, what I will say is
your denial.
No, it's not a denial. I brought up problems that I had with it.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. So when I say problems that I had with it, I'm using very neutral language, because I'm just describing my position rather than the specific argument. What I would like to get to is, if you are saying science cannot investigate this right now, and you are acknowledging that at the present moment we are not clairvoyant, we can't predict what tools of investigation science will have in the future, then I would say there is more than just reasonable doubt about what causes the effect currently described as dark matter.
But that's beside the point.
No.
It's window dressing.
It is entirely my point, which is until there is sufficient evidence to make a conclusion about what specific effect or what kind of effect causes what we'll describe as the dark matter effect, then the conclusion is we don't know, or we don't know yet, depending on how confident you want to be in investigation. No, it's not. Actually, it's a reasonable application of certainty.
Can I say something really quick?
Yes.
We don't even know what gravity is.
Yeah.
We don't even know what gravity is.
What does that have to do
so let me point this out, Billy. The limits of human knowledge do not impress me at all. The limits of human knowledge do not say anything at all about the natural world whatsoever. At one point, we did not have sufficient tools to investigate distant planets or what caused stars to explode. And at one point, people said, we will never be able to investigate the chemical makeup of stars that are beyond our reach. And since that time, we have developed
How do you know that? Wait. How do you know that?
By looking through the history of science. It's actually one of the things highlighted in A Brief History of Time, as part of the development of being able to investigate the cosmos. So the point is,
people actually used to say that we will never. Who said that?
So they said, wow, I cannot imagine a way in which we could investigate the specific chemical makeup of stars at a great distance. And when you look at that, they did not, however, conclude, oh, we should throw up our hands and never look at it, because that's not the way science works. They did not. I know. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people engaged in the scientific investigation of the cosmos in the past. What they did say was, wow, I cannot imagine a way in which this is done. They did not conclude, oh, therefore this is supernatural. And I would have said at that time that they would have been unjustified in drawing that conclusion, in the same way that I'm saying I believe that you are unjustified in drawing the conclusion that you're drawing today.
Okay, let me go at this another way. If I was unable to be detected, okay, and I could walk down the street and stomp on aluminum cans and they would crush flat. And people saw, when people were walking by, all they would see is a can crushing flat. They wouldn't see me because I can't be detected. I'm invisible. Would I be considered supernatural?
No, there wouldn't be a justification for hypothesizing your existence. So if the only phenomenon is aluminum cans are crushed, we could investigate the effect of the aluminum cans. But to conclude there is a supernatural force causing that, I believe is unjustified.
They would think that you don't think that scientists seeing cans just crushing spontaneously on the side of the road, like just crushing flat with nothing around, nothing detected at all, you don't think that scientists would conclude that there's some kind of supernatural thing going on?
So the process of science does not reach conclusions before it has sufficient evidence. And at the point at which people are investigating, let's look at this from the perspective that everyone else would have. We would say, aluminum cans are being crushed and we don't know what causes it. And that would be the point at which either further investigation would take place or insufficient scientific funding would prevent further investigation.
Actually, you nailed that.
Yeah, I don't believe that anyone would be justified in saying there is an invisible, otherwise intangible human being crushing the cans. What evidence would there be for that?
It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what.
Of course,
we're talking about what they're saying.
Otherwise, your syllogism wouldn't be perfect.
Yeah.
Let's also
the equivalent of your syllogism would be therefore the cause of the cans being crushed is supernatural, and we wouldn't be justified in concluding that.
Be.
No, whether or not it would be does not affect whether or not at that point in time we would have sufficient evidence. What you've described is a situation in which the scientists investigating the phenomenon would have a limited set of data so limited that they would not be justified in drawing a conclusion.
Yes, they would. They would have enough.
No, what they would have was an unexplained phenomena. And when you have an unexplained phenomena, you do not pull an explanation from the air. In the process of reasonable or scientific investigation, throwing up your hands, I'm very calm. I'm just very insistent in my tone. I am, but I can understand. I can understand how that's not coming across. The only data that would be had would be cans being crushed and it being unexplained. And when something is unexplained, you do not proceed by saying it is pixies.
Look what you did, Billy. Jimmy's wound up.
I never said anything else.
Yes, but if someone said, actually, it's an invisible, otherwise intangible human being, their explanation would have precisely the same evidence and precisely the same lack of explanatory power as saying pixies did it, or God did it, or multiple gods did it, or Shiva did it.
Who cares?
Okay.
Who cares what did it?
Billy.
Who cares what did it?
That's the entire point of your premise is that it was caused by supernatural means.
Whatever it is, yes, it would be.
No, I don't.
It wouldn't be.
Please provide a justification for that, because the evidence of we can't investigate it is roughly the same as I cannot find another explanation, therefore it is this. There is a name for that informal logical fallacy.
Like, you guys are not looking at it.
It's called the argument from personal incredulity.
I don't think that you're following me through.
Yeah.
Through
well,
this.
let's take a different tact. Billy, can you give me premise 1, please?
Okay.
Premise 1. Okay. I thought I did this already, but
you did.
Well, I think he's saying let's start over.
Science can't investigate the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Science can't investigate the supernatural.
Mm-hmm. So that's your antecedent.
So if we find something that science can't investigate, then it is supernatural.
That's your consequent?
Yeah, that's premise 1.
Right.
Premise 2 is science cannot investigate dark matter and dark energy. And the conclusion, if I may just throw out the conclusion real quick. Conclusion, 95% of the universe is supernatural.
Okay. So let's go back, right? When's the last time you took Logic 101?
So really quick.
Hold on. No,
this is very thing. I would say, I think just for the organization of your argument, hopefully this won't come across as pompous. I think that you should present it as having 3 premises, because the first premise actually contains 2 parts.
Well, and I'm actually going through that, Jamie. So
I was going to say, because science cannot investigate the supernatural.
Okay.
It should be first one, and then if we find something that science can't investigate, it should be considered supernatural, would be the second one.
I'm doing this, bud.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So, Billy, when's the last time you took a Logic 101?
Stop saying my name.
What'd you say?
Don't do that, dude. Don't do that.
Don't do what?
Don't do that. You're doing the same thing that militant atheists do. When's the last time you took Logic 101?
I know. I'm asking you because
we're trying to have a civilized discussion.
Yeah, and I'm asking you.
Don't patronize.
I'm not trying to be patronizing, Billy. I'm asking you because I'm about to go into the structural pieces of logic, and I don't know if I can just say, "Hey, you're affirming the consequent," or if I need to teach.
Well, So
this is not me trying to be patronizing. This is me trying to help walk you through a couple issues in your syllogism.
I have a
Do you
suggestion.
understand that? Hold on.
I'm probably twice as old as you are. So I've been through the arguments many times.
Then how come you've missed that you're affirming the consequent?
Oh my God! How come you are assuming or pretending that that's what has happened? Because that's not what happened.
So not only do you lack a basic understanding of science as a method, but you also lack a 101 understanding of logic. And because of that, it is no wonder that you think it's perfect. You rely on name-calling, talking down, and being rude to people. And that's why you're off the show. Goodbye, Billy. Have a nice day.
Oh.
No.
For those of you curious, initially Eric put him on hold, and then I think decided that Billy should be dropped. So, I think we took two different approaches to that.
We did, and we walked over each other.
So there's sort of two problems with the statement. Something that cannot be investigated by science is supernatural, as the second premise. I mean, but really, the syllogism he's presenting is two syllogisms crammed together. The first syllogism being, science cannot investigate the supernatural. Premise 2, if a thing cannot be investigated by science, then it is supernatural. Conclusion, then dark matter cannot be investigated by science, therefore dark matter is the supernatural. And then because dark matter makes up 95% of the mass of the universe, then it's supernatural.
You can come up with things that have multiple syllogisms that move forward into a cohesive end.
It's a pedantic point that's a little bit.
So, but a more like direct on point of that is I'm going to tell you why that didn't work, right? So when you have two premises, you have your antecedent, which is first, and then you have your consequent, right? It's reversed for the camera, so I'll go antecedent and then consequent. There we go. Right. So in your antecedent, it's the first premise that you make, and then the second premise that you make. What you want to do to remain on the up and up is either affirm the antecedent or deny the consequent, right? If you don't do that, you have an issue. And I'll give you an example, right? Antecedent would be all dogs have hair, right? And the consequent, or the second premise, Jamie has hair, right?
Conclusion, therefore, Jamie
is a dog.
The same logic is applied with science. Sorry. Hey, look, that's some nice thunder you've got there. Let me just reach over here and take it. Oh.
Yes, and so I'm not trying to teach you. I'm trying to walk through everybody here.
Yeah.
Right. So when you are affirming the consequent, what you're doing is you're possibly running into that. Now, we can get into the definitions of supernatural, and we can talk that way, which is what Jamie was doing, or you can get into the logical structure. Either way, though, this person failed. And I really, really have a short temper for people who are patronizing, rude, and name call. That's our job. So that said,
I mean, I don't mean to argue with you. I think that's more your job.
But no, it's ridiculous. If you are going to rely on I'm older than you, you're being rude, you are unkind, don't do that to me, and I know more than you as your answers to things.
Yeah. I mean, to be
that's
clear,
kind of a sign that you're having an issue. You're talking to two people who will not give 100% surety on anything about the nature of existence, including
because that's the justified position.
It's one of skepticism. So, with that said, of course you're going to get that, and we get that way with each other too. We hold each other honest on criticisms of things like that,
to be honest,
because we want the other one to be better. And if I told Jamie, "Hey, Jamie, I am 7 years older than you, so how dare you assume that you can have more intelligence or more knowledge of a topic than me?" It's ridiculous. When it comes to current events and politics, he's the one who keeps me informed. So why would I assume that is a reasoning that would follow? So
It wouldn't. Yeah, I was going to say, if you think that conversation was contentious, you should come have a beer across the table from Eric and I when we.
Start talking about free will. Who?
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not doing it on the air because we need to talk to Kevin in California.
I refuse to do that
Kevin!
and therefore have free will.
We're talking
Hello.
Hey,
to Eric
Kevin,
and Jamie.
save us.
How are you doing, buddy?
Doing well. I'm glad we're in touch. We talked briefly last week at the end of your show.
Oh, that's right. Yay! Thank you for calling back. We should have. Yeah, sorry for making you wait.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, with the rush we had at the end of the show, I don't think either party had a chance to really present itself. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
You and I. So.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed Billy's conversation. That was fantastic for me.
Oh yeah.
Regarding logic and the lack of science, and for instance, I just want to bounce this off of you guys. My assumption or my definition of supernatural is above natural, so it has no relation to the natural world. But what do you guys think of that definition?
Can you clarify what you mean by above?
Oh, like if you took the Latin root word of it, super literally means above, I think.
So do you mean...
It's above being natural.
Do you mean somehow better in quality, or do you mean somehow elevated in height?
It's outside of the natural world. So therefore, we as humans living in the natural world cannot be in touch with any supernatural. It is just a part of our mind that we don't have any tacit understanding of.
Okay, so as a quick aside, I'm not suggesting that we switch terms, but as far as the way you're using the word supernatural, if we're going back to Latin and Greek roots, would it also be accurate to describe that thing as extra natural or outside of?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify as far as whether you were saying, and also there's this thing that is above and greater, and it's got, golden pixies or whatever. So, because I've had that argument too many times this week.
I would define the supernatural to be that which is not part of the natural world. And so we can actually use that definition very, very well, right? We live in a natural world. So if you were to show me a thing in this natural world, right, we can investigate it.
Yeah.
Until the time that we, if we can't see it and we don't know anything about it, we can't investigate it.
Yeah.
But what I can do is I can look at fiction and say, hey, in the world of Harry Potter, right, Wingardium Leviosa is a spell that they use that is able to break the what we understand as reality, and they're able to do these things that are not in accordance with the reality we know. And so by that definition, they would be supernatural. We're talking about things and using that definition in a way that works, while also showing that so long as we live in a natural world, we should be able to find natural explanations for things. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I would actually even add a caveat to that, but I'm not sure that it will come up in this conversation, so I can leave it out. But
well, he wanted to say that science cannot investigate. I say science can investigate. It just doesn't get results when you try and investigate the supernatural, because science is based in the natural world, and you can't relate the two because they're separated. So science can investigate the supernatural. It cannot gain any results that we are able to observe and perceive.
Actually, I disagree with that, and this was the caveat I was going to bring up. So there's the show Supernatural, which has demons and a lot of allusions to, I'm going to say the words Christian mythology here. When I say the word mythology, I do not mean, and therefore it is false. I just mean it is, elaborate stories, etc. Right? So, for example, at one point I had a sweatshirt that said "The Man, the Myth, the Legend" in my name that I got as a gift. I wouldn't use that sweatshirt to say that I don't exist, in the same way that I wouldn't describe Christian mythology using the word mythology to mean that it doesn't exist. I'm just going the extra mile not to make this a contentious call, because the last call definitely went that way. So the show Supernatural has lots of sort of magic in it, but I think that it is misnamed. I think that it should be called really cool new natural stuff, because at the point at which you can create a magic detector with means of magic, or even reliably replicate ways of breaking what we currently understand as the fundamental laws of physics, I would say you have added to the human, the amount of human knowledge about the natural world.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
But
can I present a premise of mine?
Hold on. Before you do, Kevin, we're about 5 minutes into this conversation, and I don't know if this is what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So before we fill up all of your time, then I want to make sure that this is what you want to talk about while you're talking to us.
Yeah.
No. I just wanted to lighten up on Billy. You guys get a second-hand opinion for someone who's been listening to the whole deal, and just wanted to make light that this is my observation on what he believed, and maybe it's different, and I found out that it's different from what you guys believe. So we have 3 different observations in a period of two callers.
Yeah, dig it. Well, Jamie and I hardly agree on much when it comes to that kind of stuff. So 4.
That's because Eric is usually wrong.
And Eric is more patient outside of the show, I promise.
Yeah, I'm pretty patient everywhere.
Kevin.
That was a joke.
I have in the notes that you wanted to talk about how the transition from theism to atheism affects different groups of people.
Yes.
I also, as a quick aside, I also have in the notes that you are a theist. Is that correct?
Yeah, I brought it up last week. I was born and raised Jewish.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I don't have any centered belief in a God that is watching over my shoulder kind of thing.
Okay.
But I still get some auras of spirituality throughout my life, and I don't discount that. Even though I live a very scientific life, I base everything that I do on science, so that
that's probably a good
get through the day.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
I know a lot of Jews that I know are the same way. They don't. They might not believe that Noah lived to be 950 years old, but they would still believe in the ideology that the Torah teaches, in respects to whatever stories they have. You learn something whether you read it once, twice, or 10 times. You learn something new about the same story. So that's why we read the Torah over and over every year. But back to my premise is, for instance, I see a lot of atheists, young atheists, who grew up in families who were religious, and as they go to college or grow up in their lives, they separate themselves from those churches or those views that the families had, and yet that kind of cult of personality that religions instill in their adolescence, they tend to carry on even though you might discount that there's a God or anything like that. It tends to make it seem more or less like they will act the same way as a church acts together, whether or not the belief is there, because they grew up in that way, that kind of cult of personality with the church.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example.
Okay, give us a specific example.
Yeah, so if I were to bring up, let's say, politics with an atheist that I maybe met at a bar talking or something, and we seem very cool and happy about the conversation, and I bring up a certain premise that kind of pushes them away, that cult of personality being in the church, they might not engage that debate independently. They might just kind of fall back onto premises or beliefs that they've heard from other people, because they're either ignorant or impotent to make up their own premise on the spot. I
would actually disagree with that completely, and I think Jamie is too. Let's.
I actually just disagree with the description cult of personality. However, and also the way that you're referring to this, it appears to be you referring broadly to the class of people, young atheists that grew up in a religious household. So what I would say is, while this may be a thing that you have observed in people that you know that are young atheists, I would say that in many cases, religion, particularly in the United States, teaches bad modes of thinking. And I would also say that leaving the conclusion, a God exists, and leaving affiliation, I am an Episcopalian, does not remove the modes of bad thinking, right?
So
it is not the same as being trained in skepticism.
That's what
We would define that as your epistemological toolbox, right? The tools that you use to understand the world around you. And so if you developed those from growing up in church, then I think that would probably fit what you're saying as the cult of personality, right? You use the best tools that you have at your disposal. I would say that if I'm presented with something that I've never heard before and I need to chew on it, I would absolutely need to say that I was ignorant of it. And even if I wasn't ignorant of it and I still hadn't come to a conclusion that I was comfortable with, I would be honest about that and say that I'm still chewing on it and I haven't come to a conclusion that I'm comfortable with, but I wouldn't fall into either ignorant or impotent, right? I would just
when I say
categorize
impotent,
that as
I don't
honest.
mean the medical impotence. I mean impotent is I attempt a task and I'm unable to finish it.
Yeah.
Kevin's doing my job on the show.
I would say that logic, and really giving it your best means that you got to take homework home. And so I wouldn't call that impotence. I'd call that honesty. I would be very skeptical of somebody who came up with a full logical, understanding of something on the spot.
Right.
Okay.
Right. For instance, an example of impotence was when Billy was confronted about this proving science or unable to prove supernatural, and he goes to this red herring where he says, "Well, I'm twice your age. You should, He didn't really say it, but he's implying, you should respect my opinion because I'm older than you. That's the.
Got it.
And that's the kind of impotence that I'm talking about, where people avoid answering a question because they feel unable to.
So I feel like we're
I actually have a response.
So let's definitely get through to the end so that we
I
can...
actually have a general response. I think that religious belief has almost nothing to do with it, as in terms of the conclusion about a God. Right. So, in my view, it says you're a theist here, so I'm going to mention this, but it's not really the sticking point I want to get into at least yet. I think that if you properly apply skepticism and have a sufficient level of scrutiny on evidence, it is what I did, and it led me to the conclusion that a God does not exist. Other than that process, a person's ability to think clearly, apply logic, or know about how effed the human brain is about understanding anything is, I don't think that it's helped by fundamentalist religious indoctrination that just says, don't think about it, don't question, whatever. However, I think that that's largely detached from whether or not you conclude that a God exists. And as in my experience, I see that everywhere.
That was a long general response.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. The premise isn't so much that.
Are we still on topic, or are we in the weeds? It feels like we never got to the thing we were talking about.
We're about halfway through where we're supposed to be, and I feel you guys are exactly caught up to where we need to be.
Cool. Mm-hmm. We are 15 minutes into a call that.
Well, the first 5 was about the previous one.
It doesn't. We're still on this call.
Yeah.
And us talking about the previous call and not getting to it is.
Are you guys? No.
We're doing our best to better monitor time, so the thing that happened to you last week doesn't happen again.
Yeah, we're keeping this call on the rails.
What was the second half of what you wanted to talk about?
Is that cult of personality, whether it's for an older person or a younger person, again, not having to be directly related to a belief in God or not, it exists in humanity and society. That is causing a lot of the younger generation to kind of be more stupid and rely on less exact facts. And I almost believe that I don't want to classify it as an atheist generation, but younger kids who are able to think for themselves as atheists, who grew up in a religion, they aren't really representing their intelligence the way that I think they could be, because they're just like regurgitating crap they see online. And that's a separate cult of personality, where atheism could be turning into like a religion in a sense. I call it a cult because it's not an established religion.
Okay, cool. So what I would say is there's two things. One, I would say that cult of personality refers to a very specific social dynamic, and two, I agree with you. Everyone should be more skeptic. However, one of the sentences you said in there, I firmly disagree with, which is you said, so they're relying on less good facts. Do you mean less reliable way of thinking or conclusions than they were, for example, if they were in a fundamentalist church? So, for example, a person that was in a fundamentalist church and then
let him
leaves
answer.
and then begins to believe,
let him answer,
and then believes in horoscopes.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, it's, sorry, I got a little distracted.
I do that.
An example I can use is my mother is a highly educated accountant. She's been working for many years with different businesses, high-end businesses. She grew up in Europe. And now she's starting to believe really weird stuff online as truth, things like conspiracy theories and such.
I'm sorry to hear that.
She's not using her logical side to think for herself. So she's succumbing to not a cult of personality, but let's just say a cult of conspiracy.
I think the word cult is not applicable.
It's really throwing me for a loop. I'm trying to mentally connect that to mental tool or cognitive tool.
Use a better substitute if you guys can.
Cognitive tool.
Is there a better word?
Cognitive tool or epistemological tool.
Okay.
Just
Epistemological tool.
That helps a lot.
Yeah. Cult implies organization.
So, Kevin, I kind of want to investigate this a bit. Do you think that this is new?
In a sense of a transition from so many people living in a hard-locked religion-like lifestyle, let's say in the 50s, to now we have a lot of people being more independent and atheists. Does that translate to a new religion of atheism in a sense?
Hold on. I think that you tried to answer it, but I think that you, instead of responding to it, turned it into a question that neither I understand nor answers the question I asked you. So I'll go back, right, and try to include all of this here. You saying that this new generation that's just relying on regurgitating things that they saw on the internet or just spouting things that they saw but have not investigated, do you think this is a new phenomenon? Yes.
No, I don't.
Okay, so what's the problem? It seems like the more we recognize it, the better we'll be because we can actually account for it, right?
The impact that we have today is greater because technology has made it much easier for information to spread. So comparing 150 years ago, the amount of information that was able to be spread and the impact it would have, it would take many generations. But now you can have an impact that can be done so in a couple days.
But that said, Kevin, people regurgitating crap that they heard and not investigating it goes back as long as humanity's been around. It's an issue that I agree with, but I would not accuse religion or lack thereof of being the issue. I would say that the more cognizant we are of the way that we behave, the more that we can account for it and try to do better. So that said, that would be the way that I would rebut your statement, is by saying it's kind of all of us. It's kind of always been that way, and we do our best to do better. So the time that we're in and what we're, it doesn't impact that.
Well, I guess I see it as a snowball gaining weight, rolling downhill.
So
but it's the same behavior, Kevin.
Yeah. Let me. I think you guys are pointing to different elements of this. I think that what he is saying is, look at the effect that technology has had vis-a-vis what I would describe as human nature being naturally not skeptical. And what you are saying is human nature has always been naturally not skeptical. Like, being skeptical is a skill that must be learned, and I have a great like native generally. Well, I mean, I
believe the universe is a ratio, and the only way we can observe that ratio is by comparing it to something. So we can stare at the moon, but unless I'm comparing parts of the moon to something I've already seen, I create a perception of that. So
Kevin,
there are blind observations and real observations, I guess.
You're saying that the universe is a ratio.
Everything that you perceive as a human being is a ratio because you have to compare it to something else.
We understand.
Okay,
We begin to understand. Would you say we begin to understand the unknown in terms of the known?
You can only compare what you don't know to something you do know. Otherwise,
exactly.
It's a blind observation.
Then let's pull the word ratio out because that definitely confused things.
I would like to point out that we're shifting
20 minutes
the topic.
And we have other callers we want to get to. Kevin, I hope this has been fun. It's been fun for us.
Yes.
So take care, brother. And
feel free to call back next week because we also didn't address anything specifically that you believe about the supernatural or whatever, and I'd be happy to do that as well because you're an excellent caller.
Yep. Take care, man.
Well, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys being so jocular.
Yay! Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. It's time to thank those patrons.
Thankity McThank.
That's right. I didn't even say it at the beginning of the episode. I kind of screwed that up. Did you
you're
know
gonna.
that
we thank our top 5 patrons in the middle of our show every single episode, and that is what we're about to do.
And I refresh
starting
it
right
immediately. And so let's start with Neil. Neil,
now,
our number 1 patron. Thank you so much, Neil. After that is Nando Gonzalez, Austin Ploshnik, Lynette Cross, and Joe Roll. Those are our top 5 patrons. Thank you so much. If you would like to become a patron, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. When you do that, you're able to empower us not only to have this show, because this show is at the Atheist Community of Austin, 1507 West Canaan Lane, Austin, Texas. We're able to have other shows. We're able to donate to organizations like Foundation Beyond Belief, where they are using that to do good work all over. And we want to continue to do that. Those donations really, really help. And we do rely on these small donations. If you can donate $1 an episode, that's $4 a month. And that's actually really, really helpful. People think, oh, well, I can only do $1. Only $1?
Yeah.
I've talked to people who have Patreons. And what happens is, you get 10 people who all donate $10 each and 100 people who all donate $1, right? If 5 people drop off of the $1,
fine. Yeah, and to be clear,
5 people drop off of the 10, it's rough. It really does help. It means that we can reliably be able to do awesome stuff and bring you more awesome content. Thank you so much.
Every little bit counts, and when people say, if everyone watching this or everyone listening gave $1 right now, our fundraiser would be over, that's very cliche, but it's also fucking true.
If everybody watching
literally
every
dollar helps.
episode, you know what we could do? We could probably get a bigger building.
Yes. Oh my God, we've outgrown this one. So it's not just us. It helps us help other people grow local community around the country, which is part of our goal. It helps the Austin community, and it helps create the content that you know and love or are possibly experiencing for the first time today.
Yeah. If you can't afford to, that's totally fine. Hop on Google and iTunes and leave it. the Atheist Community of Austin. That is us.
Yes. And what I will say is also, don't forget to like and subscribe, because that helps, and it's free. Because right now, you are watching YouTube.
I love you, Jamie. So you literally cut me off in saying that so you could say
all of your thunder is belong to me.
Yeah.
So scroll down and then click the thumb that looks like that.
Hit subscribe, please. We really, really do love the subscribers. Thank you so much ahead of time. And leave a good review. Let's get up there. Let's get more people watching us. But I'm tired of that spiel. Let's move on to the next caller.
He's tired of talking to me. Let's take Minh in Oakland.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Minh.
Minh, welcome back.
Hello, Eric. Hello, Jamie.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm really good.
Good.
I'm really happy to talk to Eric again about something I want to bring up. And I think the previous 2 callers sort of make that transition for me.
Okay. So what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I think, so the last time I talked with Eric, I think you said that if we believe in something that we don't have solid evidence, it can lead to magical thinking, it will open door to all the woo stuff. Is that what is right?
Absolutely. If you believe things without having any kind of evidence for them, then that does open the door to magical thinking. And it does potentially lead to you being taken advantage of. It leads to different things like woo, where you could fall down a whole bunch of different really rough rabbit holes that don't necessarily get you anywhere closer to reality. I agree with that.
Crystals are overpriced. They're just rocks. They're not magic.
And all of the other things. But it sounds like you had something to say about it.
Yeah, I think, but because the thing is, to me, magical thinking, it's simply like, I'm sorry to bring this up, this person, I guess you don't like, but I mean, he makes sense to me to a certain extent, like Jordan Peterson when he said metaphysical substrate. Mm-hmm. I think it just seems like it's like a vehicle to explain something that we deal with, well, I guess, more effectively.
We deal with the stories. We deal with each other in the society that we're in by telling stories. And we can analyze those stories to determine a lot about what we care about as a society. But if there was a story about magic that was coming to mind, I would immediately jump to it, other than Harry Potter, something that's actually, Cinderella, some kind of, Aesop's fable, right? Mm-hmm. That if I were to pull those and talk about them, right, just because they're ingrained in our culture as stories that we recognize and our references that we have, that doesn't mean that any magic therein is real.
The value is the story, not the truth of the story.
The metaphysical substrate of that is something that we're drawing without coming to a conclusion that it is real, where there are things that we can learn from stories, but that doesn't mean that those stories are necessarily true.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you. What I'm trying to say is that because in certain culture, like in my culture, our parents teach children, morality or values. They don't teach through logic, like the way humanists do. Mm-hmm. But, they tell the kids like some sort of folk tales or fairy tales, and the kids can think about the moral on their own. And it's had been successful like for a long time. So I guess that's why people still cling to that magical thinking, including myself.
I think I don't think that's. I don't think you're describing magical thinking.
Yeah, and I can actually tell you, Minh, that I had a conversation where I was on the other side of the issue, right? Where I agreed a little more with you on this, and what I was arguing at the time was I was like 8 years ago. I was saying, hey, well, maybe people who are in religion just need it because not everybody has the tools to get there. And if they're being good people or living good lives, who are we to denigrate the fact that they're reaching to their Bible? And I was corrected in many, many ways, right? But one of those ways that I was corrected was I was told, Eric, how can you be so condescending? Right? How could any of us condescend so low as to assume that other people don't deserve to know the truth? Right? Or how could I assume that other people without that kind of magical thinking would be evil? Right? If I'm already assuming that magic is not real, then they're not doing it because of the magic. They're doing it because they're good people already. So pull the Bible out, pull the magical thinking out, they're still going to be good people.
Yeah.
Right? And lastly, when you hold on to good things for bad reasons, I'm going to touch back on that thing we said last time. And when you hold on to good things for bad reasons, you're leaving the door open for bad crap. Right? That's why I would say, I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying that, telling your child a story so that they know not to cross the street without looking both ways or, something to help them remember stranger danger. I get that that's useful, but to apply that to humanity is condescending, don't you think?
Well, I think the problem is that like sorry, I think not everyone on this planet can think in philosophical terms like you do. So the thing is, I think I admire you when you can confront some issue without resorting to some other story. But for other people, even including myself, it's easier when I observe something from another person and then I can relate it to myself better. So I guess that's why fairy tales or fable tend to have something that like logical philosophy does not help me much.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? So you've said like fairy tale or story. Are you talking about believing that the events described in the story actually occurred?
Well, as an adult, I would say no, I don't. But as a kid, yes, I did believe it happened. Yeah.
So
but
like,
I mean, in the end, either a child or an adult, when I read the same story, I still draw the same conclusion about the lesson in the story. So
I would make the point that I don't think that what you're describing is magical thinking or even necessarily a flawed epistemology. So drawing lessons from stories or even drawing comfort from stories is not dependent on believing that the story is true. For example, I haven't seen it in years and I would probably get less out of it now, but there are Disney films and Pixar films that I found, watching them very, very cathartic and, informative and helpful or calming or, inspiring. But I don't believe that at one point in time, necessarily a clownfish with one fin smaller than the other was, captured by a diver off the coast of Australia, or that a bunch of tigers ruled over a realm where animals acted unnaturally, and then they acted out the play Hamlet. Like, I don't necessarily believe that those events actually occurred somewhere in the savannah. However, I believe that the movie The Lion King was made and that I've seen it and that I can draw lessons from it. So magical thinking would be concluding that, oh, well, if a story makes me feel good, reality makes me feel good, therefore stories are true. And unreliable epistemology would be like, ooh, that sounds like a neat story, therefore it actually happened. But for you to say, well, thinking about things abstractly in a philosophical sense isn't a good way for me to learn or communicate lessons, I tell stories that include fairies or talking lions, I would say, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Minh?
Yeah, but I mean, like, how... The thing is, like, when you talk about epistemology, like, when people read something, resonate to them, they don't actually analyze the story to investigate if the story is correct or not. It seems like they search for something, and then somehow the story talk to them in a way that, straight talking will not. And I can give you the example. Do I have time for that?
Well, actually, we're low on time, but can I possibly give you a quick example? We'll see if we can throw this together as quick as we can. Right? We've all seen The Wizard of Oz, I'm sure.
I did at one point. I know the story.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Sure. So in The Wizard of Oz, there are lessons that you can draw about the power of friendship, about the importance of home, about working together and overcoming your own fears and things like that. If I saw that and drew those lessons, I would not wonder, hey, can you fly on a broomstick? Are there witches that exist in the real world, and will water defeat them? Those kinds of things, right? I wouldn't assume that just because I drew those lessons about friendship and overcoming, adversity, that I have to believe in witches. Are you saying that? Are you saying that people have to decide, witches and the whole thing are real?
That's I'm not really sure, because many people, I think, because when I came to this country, people who are religious in a strange way that I don't understand, because I grew up in a society where people around me who are into a lot of religious tradition, but they don't think about religion the way Western people do, because the religion, they always have something about moral, but it's never about cosmology. So they don't try to justify it with science or facts.
Yeah.
It's only about how to live your life in a way that is, ethical or meaningful to you, essentially.
We just want to take all the good parts and leave all the bad parts.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think that's a much better way of thinking about religion.
Okay.
Using it as, hey, like examining it as this is a proposed way to live your life, rather than this is a multiple times translated, multiple times copied, manuscripts mixed and lost and added description of the creation of the universe.
If I may,
go
ahead. If I may, I will give you one really quick example.
Sure, go ahead.
To show you, people tend to do better with some story. So when I went to college, a classmate of mine who was gay, and he struggled a lot, not with his identity, but with his family, because they did not accept him, and because his family was Christian. And on top of that, being gay, he's also an atheist. So when he confided in me about what happened, and he asked me, what should I do? And I told him, I don't have a solution because I am gay too, but I never struggle with it. I'm fine with who I am.
I'm glad to hear that.
If you want, I can give you this. Thank you. Yeah, but if you want, I can give you this parable I read in the Hindu tradition. Maybe it will help you, or maybe it's not. I know you're an atheist.
Well, let's right now we're building up to something. I bet you could have given us the parable probably in as quickly as it time to. Yeah. If you could say it quickly, good. Yeah. And then we're going to move on to the next.
And then
caller.
also, if there are citations for I'm assuming it's from the Vedas, then that would be cool as well.
Oh, you want me to summarize the parable?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the parable?
Yeah. So the parable is there was two monks who had lunch at a river, and one of them saw a scorpion fall into the water, and he picked it up, put it on the dry land, and the scorpion stung him, and then the scorpion fell into the water again, and he put it back on, and it stung him again, and it continued doing that, and then about a few times. So the other monk asked him, so why do you keep saving that scorpion even though you know it will sting you? And he said, the scorpion dharma is to sting anything it touched, but it's my dharma to save it. So I told that story to that classmate, and when a few weeks, a week later, he came back and he seemed to be better. And he told me that, I can relate to the story because I am, being gay is who I am. It's my nature. I cannot change it. Mm-hmm. And if my family cannot accept me, that's their nature too. And I will not bother it. I just live true to who I am.
I think that's a wonderful example, because I think what you've done is you've illustrated that we agree. Yeah. We're no longer arguing here. What we'll say is, you can draw lessons from fictional stories, but what we want to draw the line with is that you don't need to accept magic to be true to understand the lesson of a story or a parable. With that said, that is not magical thinking. Yeah. So while we agree, I will tell you that the original point of magical thinking is one that I'm glad we've worked through together, because I don't think you think it's magical thinking either. I think we may have just been talking past each other, and I'm glad that we've reached some kind of resolution. With that said, I think we're going to move on to the next call. Yeah.
I would say that your friend is interpreting the parable backwards.
But that's not the point.
Yeah, that's not the point.
All right. Take care, Minh.
We'll talk later. Join me on Facebook. Yeah. And then also that parable applies to us. I'm going to tell that parable the next time someone asks me, why do we take calls from creationists, argue with them.
So I really want to talk to Claire, but I'm going to save Claire for last and start move
so
to
Claire,
Jason.
Don't hang up.
Jason in North Carolina, you're talking to Eric and Jamie. How you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing today?
Doing good.
I feel like a monk beside a river.
Yeah. What would you like to talk about?
I did say y'all, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeehaw. What you want to talk about?
Right. I'm an atheist, but I see in a lot of conversations, atheists with theists, where the theists will be sort of misconstrue the atheist position and say, well, you say there's no God. And there's a lot of kind of I don't really want to call it backhand, but there's like an off-color kind of, well, yeah, I think that, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So I kind of wanted to get into, for the atheists that do believe that there is no God, the Gnostic atheists, what kind of thought process gets them there?
Sure. So I would say that when I talk to someone who's a Gnostic atheist, in my experience, what they're saying is they're coming to a conclusion based on a very specific definition of that God. Right. So if you were to say, that this deity, right, and a lot of Christians, not all, but a lot, will say God has these characteristics. And upon investigation, we can find that those characteristics cannot exist. And so if you are presenting that kind of God, then I could be Gnostic about it. I could say, I know for a fact that God does not exist. But I feel like that doesn't help because it doesn't get you through to the final part, which is that there are so many different definitions of a God that to say that you are Gnostic without understanding those definitions puts you at just being flat wrong in some cases. If somebody says they define God as just the universe, then okay, cool, I agree with that definition. And me having said that I'm a Gnostic atheist, and yet you are defining that God as just the existence of the universe we're in, then I would not have been doing myself any favors.
Yeah, but it's also not helpful in communicating.
Right. And so if we're having a very specific discussion with a very specific group that is saying, we as a group define this God in this way, right, which you can get in a lot of major religions. They say, we define our God as having done X, Y, and Z, and put that out as the tenets of their faith, then you could actually be a Gnostic atheist on those things when it comes to examining the claims of that religion and being able to test them.
There's also lots of definitions of the word know or to know. So you've got lots of...
Thank you for pointing that out because a lot of times you'll hear, on other shows or not necessarily your show. What were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to say, how can you know anything? Oh, you're too confident in your belief, which is often what I say. So.
Right. But, thank you for specifying that. Specifically, but I guess that was my question. I guess it was just me not really going down that path and thinking about, the atheist in that sense is talking about the specific God that theist is talking about.
Or they can be an idiot.
But
which is possible. We are not short on people who make terrible decisions.
Yeah. You're talking...
woo itself is proof that not all atheists use skepticism.
Hashtag not
not too, Jason, because I'm pretty sure you believe it already, but look into skepticism.
Yeah. Scientific skepticism as a way of understanding the world.
But we've got one more caller to get to. We hope you have a really good weekend, man. It's good. It's nice talking to you.
And thank you. It was a useful call.
Too. Ready to move to Claire?
Yeah, Claire!
In Australia. Claire, so first off,
howdy.
I saw that you are calling not using the call the show button. So from here on, anytime you want to call the show, you can check on Twitter, Instagram, on our Facebook pages, or if you go to atheistexperience.org, there's a call the show button in the upper left-hand corner. You can call online without having to use all those long-distance minutes. That is tough. My goodness.
That's all right.
Wow, that's an incredible offer.
Social media. Yeah, I'm not very good at social media, so yeah.
You can find it online as well.
I'd probably rather just go through the phone, so it's fine.
That is also fine.
What
we will still take your call.
What you can also do, shoot me an email.
Yeah.
Shoot him an email to mail@talkheathen.com, and I'll take that link and I'll email it back to you personally. That way, next time you can just call straight through there.
Great.
Sound good?
That being said, what did you want to talk about?
Yes.
So I haven't done this before, so I'm a little nervous, but I had a friend, a psychologist friend that I talk to regularly that encouraged me to call through. I volunteer with a very, very religious Christian organization, and I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
And we have flooding going on up north in Australia in Townsville. And so they sent me up there to do some relief work with hundreds of very, very religious people. So it was a really interesting experience.
Good for you. Thank you for helping the humanity.
I've volunteered with churches as well, and it really is interesting. But it does feel good when you're finding a way to help people. So good on you for deciding that the needs of the people are more important than
that it is a valuable use of your time.
Yeah.
So it says here that you wanted to talk about what the interactions were?
Yeah.
Well, it was just interesting. I went up. No one really knew I'm an atheist, really, and I just kind of did a little bit of, SE, like street epistemology, just asking why people believe what they believe. This is apart from the doing the relief work. So this is talking to the other staff. And it was just, I spoke to two people in particular, which was really interesting. Like this one girl that she was very religious, and she had an affair on her husband, and they broke up, and she decided to take the year off to just dwell on that. And she's in a Bible study group, and she every week would go and discuss how much of a sinner she is and how guilty she is. And it was so heartbreaking to see all that pain she was putting herself through constantly and dedicating for a year to do this. Like it was so heartbreaking to see. And there's like all this other stuff going on. Like it kind of felt so unnecessary compared to this, like the floods that they had no choice but to lose all this. But the religious people that I was talking to, they were just inflicting so much pain and guilt and like talking about being such a sinner and a horrible person and God saved them, they're nothing. Like it was just heartbreaking to see they were doing that by choice. Am I making any sense?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we know exactly what you're talking about.
I recall that very cringingly that there's this push to paint you out to be sick so that they can sell you the medicine. Painting yourself out to be evil and base and terrible. Shame is a powerful tool that religion uses. I guess we should have given the caveat. Hey, it's awesome that you volunteered, and are there any skeptic groups maybe around you, any secular groups that you might be able to volunteer for, or if anything, maybe be able to start if we gave you the resources?
Supply.
Yeah.
Oh, there's really not much on Gold Coast, to be honest. Like it's very hard to find. There's so many churches everywhere and very religious people. Like even my roommates are very religious. Like I'm kind of all on my own here in a way.
Well, what I will say is I know that it feels that way, but statistically it is not true. It is sort of the amazing thing about the atheist position is that as far as records show throughout time, and in all cultures that we have records of, there have always been people that doubted and didn't believe and came to the atheist position. But the same cannot be said for any other religion. And so it's sort of like the arm of time is, or the bow of time is long, but it bends towards reason and disbelief.
I like that.
Yeah. It's not strictly mine. Which is to say, I'm sorry that you feel alone, but I don't, I hope that and...
Definitely look into seeing if you don't see a group, you should start one. I think that'd be amazing.
Well, I've considered that. I am a part of a lot of online groups, like Atheist Republic, SE, like heaps of online stuff. So I know I'm not alone in general, but like just physically, it's very...
Yeah. You'd be surprised.
But, it was really... I should look into it more. But it was just really interesting. I guess because 80 to 90% of my life is involved in this volunteer group because I do it pretty regularly.
Yeah.
But it's not many people knew I was an atheist. And then because my psychologist friend suggested, why don't you just wait until the last day because you're up there for a 7-day deployment. And he said, why don't you wait until the last day and then kind of just gently let people know. And I did that, and it was really interesting, the responses I got from, it was, a lot of people kind of seemed shocked at first to think that someone so caring could be an atheist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, a lot of people attempted to convert me, so...
Yeah.
Well, you kind of had to expect
that. Was really
that doesn't mean that it's not, that it doesn't lessen the experience, to be clear. Well,
it was interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm actually feeling very good. Like a few people actually got my contact details and have been contacting me, and I kind of have a little bit of a giggle to myself because they'll talk to me and I'll do SE and they'll think that they're converting me, but they're actually
They're starting to question their world.
Yeah, I've been there.
Think and so
that's great.
Aggression has never been my thing. Like I just ask questions and I'm
Good.
really interested in why they are the way they are.
Well, I mean, we're just some assholes. Every approach is necessary. I appreciate
for yourself.
Okay, I'm just some asshole.
Yeah.
Every approach is necessary. I love that you're doing that, Claire. That's awesome. And just remember that. I mean, I think Phil is still here.
Yeah,
Phil
he's in the back.
is a
Amazing.
testament to the fact that one person,
one
person can do a lot of good.
There's sort of
two
a
people
theory that he's part
can
of
do even more,
quintuplets,
right?
Because it would explain how he gets so much charity done.
But here's the thing: he is one human, and he is not so unique that you could not learn to go out and help other people on your own too. And the fact is that two people can do so much more. The power of three people to put on, something amazing is something that I have seen.
Yeah.
You don't need 20 people. You don't need 50.
Well, it can help.
You can do it.
You can do
it. Can help, but no, actually, there's diminishing returns after some point, and it just becomes a matter of scale.
And then you do more and other things, and you break up, and you don't have to. Yeah, well, whatever. We're now talking about organizing a labor force.
Anyway, Claire, rock on. Keep being awesome.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Have a good one. All right. With that said, are there any other announcements that we needed to do?
Rings. Don't forget Atheist Day, March 23rd.
And we're going to get your tickets to the American Atheist Convention 2019 because they might be sold out, and especially the rooms. I actually got an email from Nick Fish yesterday who said that they're almost sold out of rooms. So
we're all going to be sleeping in a closet.
Yeah. So that said, we got the love rings up.
If you don't believe you have community here, if you do believe we don't hate you, we just think you're wrong.
Oh, we did it!
Guess who's a copycat? Eric, because I said it first.
Love it.
Boom.
We said it together.